Have you ever met someone who feels like two seasons at once? Warm, soft, almost poetic one moment, and distant, impossible to read the next? Maybe they were born in March. There's something about them that feels fluid, like water deciding what shape to take depending on the room. They can sit quietly at a party and somehow absorb everyone's mood without saying much. Or they'll surprise you by saying something so insightful, it lingers in your mind for days. March born people often move through life like they're listening to music the rest of us can't quite hear. They notice small shifts, a change in tone, a flicker in your eyes, the weight behind a "I'm fine." And if you are one of them, you probably know the feeling. The sense that you don't just experience life, you feel it. Deeply, sometimes beautifully, sometimes overwhelmingly. Let's talk about why that is. People born in March often carry an emotional depth that surprises others. Not dramatic, not loud, just deep. There's a difference. Psychologically speaking, many individuals born under late winter and early spring months tend to display higher levels of introspection and sensitivity. Some researchers have explored correlations between birth season and temperament, suggesting environmental factors, light exposure, early developmental rhythms may subtly influence neurological patterns. It's not destiny, but it's interesting. And whether it's biology, astrology symbolism, or simple coincidence, March-born individuals often share striking patterns. They are observers before they are speakers. Walk into a room with them. They won't dominate the space. They'll scan it. Not in a paranoid way, more like someone adjusting their emotional antenna. Who seems tense? Who feels left out? Who's pretending to be okay? They pick it up. Ever notice how some people ask, "Are you sure you're all right?" at the exact moment you were hoping someone would? That's them. Their empathy can feel almost psychic. But here's the thing, it's not magic. It's pattern recognition. When you spend years paying attention to subtle emotional cues, your brain gets very good at detecting them. Micro-expressions, pauses, breathing shifts, tone changes. Daniel Goleman, who popularized the concept of emotional intelligence, describes empathy as the ability to read emotional currents beneath the surface. March-born personalities often swim in those currents daily. But depth has a cost, because when you feel everything, you feel everything. The beauty of a sunset can move you to tears. A harsh comment can echo in your head longer than you'd like. A conflict between two friends can disturb your sleep even if it has nothing to do with you. Have you ever replayed a conversation 10 times just to check if you accidentally hurt someone? That's familiar territory. There's often a quiet duality inside March-born individuals. On one hand, they crave closeness. On the other, they retreat easily. Why? Because sensitivity doesn't just amplify joy. It amplifies risk. Attachment theory suggests that highly empathetic individuals may develop protective strategies to avoid emotional overload. Sometimes that looks like disappearing for a while, turning off the phone, needing space without fully explaining why. It's not rejection, it's regulation. And then there's creativity. March sits on the edge of seasons, winter melting into spring. That transitional energy often mirrors the inner world of March-born personalities. They think in metaphors. They daydream. They imagine alternate outcomes. They write stories in their heads during boring meetings. Research on divergent thinking, the ability to generate multiple ideas or solutions, shows strong links with openness to experience. Many March-born individuals score high in openness traits: imagination, aesthetic sensitivity, abstract thinking. They can see 10 possibilities where others see one. But that imaginative mind can also spiral. Have you ever built entire worst-case scenarios in your head before sending a simple text? Imagined rejection before it even existed? That same creativity that makes them visionary can sometimes make them anxious. It's like having a powerful engine with no Automatic brakes. March-born people also tend to possess strong intuitive judgment. They might not always articulate why they trust or distrust someone. They just know. And interestingly, studies on thin slicing, the brain's ability to make quick judgments based on limited information, show that intuition is often accumulated experience processed rapidly. So when a March-born person says, "Something feels off," it usually is. But intuition can be isolating, because how do you explain a feeling you can't logically defend? This is where boundaries become crucial. Sensitive personalities must learn the difference between compassion and absorption, between caring and carrying. March-born individuals often struggle here. They'll take on emotional labor without realizing it. Become the therapist friend, the peacemaker, the silent supporter. And while that role can be meaningful, it can also be exhausting. Have you ever felt tired after being around people, even people you love? That's not antisocial behavior. That's emotional expenditure. Psychologist Elaine Aron, known for her research on highly sensitive persons, HSP, explains that heightened sensory processing sensitivity leads to deeper cognitive processing, but also faster overstimulation. Many March-born individuals resonate strongly with these descriptions. They need solitude, not because they dislike people, but because they process deeply. Solitude for them isn't loneliness, it's maintenance. Now let's talk about resilience. Despite their softness, March-born individuals often display quiet strength, not loud ambition, not aggressive dominance, but endurance. They can sit with discomfort longer than most. They can forgive. They can adapt. Why? Because when you're emotionally aware, you understand that feelings move. They change. Nothing stays permanent. This gives them an almost philosophical relationship with pain. Instead of suppressing sadness, they analyze it. Instead of exploding in anger, they withdraw and reflect. Sometimes too much. But reflection builds insight, and insight builds wisdom. There's also a subtle spiritual or existential streak many March-born individuals carry. They question meaning. They ponder purpose. They feel drawn to symbolism, the moon, the ocean, transitions, cycles, even if they aren't overtly spiritual. They sense that life has layers beneath the visible surface. And here's the paradox. They can appear dreamy and detached, yet when someone they love is in crisis, they become fiercely grounded, practical, present, protective. Soft does not mean weak in relationships. March-born personalities often love deeply, but cautiously. They'll give their whole heart, but only after scanning for safety. Trust is sacred. Once broken, it's hard to repair. And because they understand emotional nuance so well, they expect the same depth in return. Surface-level interactions drain them. They crave meaningful conversations at 1 a.m. more than crowded small talk at 8 p.m. Have you ever felt like you don't quite belong in loud rooms but thrive in quiet corners? That's a common March-born experience. They don't always need attention. They need connection. Career-wise, many thrive in roles involving creativity, counseling, design, writing, music, healing professions, or any field requiring emotional literacy. But they can succeed anywhere, as long as the environment isn't chronically harsh. Constant conflict or rigid structures can feel suffocating, because at their core, March-born individuals value fluidity, emotional honesty, meaning, and perhaps the most beautiful thing about them is this: they remember the tone of your voice when you were nervous, the exact words that made them feel safe, the date you mentioned in passing that was important. Memory, for them, isn't just data. It's emotional imprint, which is why they sometimes carry wounds longer than others, but also why they cherish love more fiercely than most. So if you are born in March and you've ever felt too sensitive, too emotional, too dreamy, maybe you're not too much. Maybe you're just tuned differently. And if you love someone born in March, understand this: Beneath their calm surface is an ocean. Treat it gently. March-born souls are like the space between seasons. Not fully winter, not fully spring. They live in transition, in nuance, in quiet depth. They are the ones who notice the unspoken, who feel the shift before it becomes visible, who carry both rain and sunlight inside the same breath. Their strength is subtle. Their love is layered. Their mind is a garden of imagination, sometimes wild, sometimes peaceful, always alive. Yes, they may retreat. Yes, they may overthink. Yes, they may feel more than seems necessary. But they also heal, create, understand. And in a world that often rewards loud certainty, there is something rare about someone who moves gently yet sees deeply. If you're born in March, maybe your sensitivity isn't a flaw. Maybe it's your compass. And if this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these reflections, consider exploring the longer video below where we dive even deeper into the hidden patterns behind March-born personalities. Because sometimes understanding yourself isn't about changing who you are. It's about finally recognizing your own rhythm.